Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Betty Ann Howard, and this is Heather. And I'm going to be introducing Heather in a bit more detail in a few minutes. Actually, she'll be introducing herself. And this is the Imagine Your Legacy Today, Tomorrow, and Beyond series. And it's intended to have meaningful conversations. And I know Heather and I have had many meaningful conversations about planned giving and philanthropy and legacy. And I have a great deal of admiration for Heather because she is one of the, if I may be so bold, one of the few lawyers who actually is willing to talk about philanthropy and delve into this along with other lawyers at your firm, which is fantastic because we know that certainly can be an issue. So welcome, Heather. And I wanted you to start by talking about your background and who has made a difference in your life so we can help people understand why legacy, why philanthropy, why planned giving is so important to you in your practice as a lawyer.
Good morning, Betty Ann, and thank you for the introduction. So where do I come from? I'm a Maritimer first and foremost. I've been in Ottawa a long time now, but my roots in the Maritimes keep me grounded. And philanthropy has become a huge part of my practice for my clients, as well as the other lawyers within my office. We have a large wills and estates practice, and a number of our clients need that advice and the connections that we can provide to advisors like yourself who are able to guide them through the philanthropic process while they're creating an estate plan.
So that's great. I love that you've said that you grew up in the East Coast. And are there specific people who have made a difference in your life when it comes to philanthropy?
Sure. So growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I'm an only child, and they're very influential in my life. They lived through the Depression. They certainly never had a lot, but whatever it was that they had, they shared. So my grandfather had a huge garden, and every harvest season, people would come and he would share the fruits of his labor. And the church was really important to my grandparents. And there was this one little song when I was a kid that talked about a magic penny. And if you held it tight in your hand, you wouldn't have any. But if you lent it, spent it, or gave it away, you would end up having more. And it's a children's song. It's a Sunday school song. And it has stayed with me all of these years because that's exactly what philanthropy is about. It doesn't have to be the Carnegies of the world who have a lot of money to share and a lot of wealth to share. It can be a very small thing that has a huge impact on those who are going to receive the benefit of the charity.
Excellent, excellent. And Heather, what have you seen based on your practice are the barriers to people actually imagining their legacy? What do you see as being the challenges?
Some people just don't know where to start. They have a number of charities that they give to, and their ideas change over time, and they're not sure if they want to fix a particular charity. Sometimes they don't understand which charity they want to give to, or how the charity is going to use their money, or how they can be sure that they're going to have enough to see them out and know whether there's going to be something left over for a charity. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we connect the client with the charitable organization to understand the purposes behind it and what are the options available. And there's so many. Charities are so creative about this. So there's lots of options to either start giving now or give later. And structuring the will to ensure that the goal of the client is satisfied and the charity benefits to the greatest extent they can. Some people feel that if they deal with a charity now, they might perhaps be asked repeatedly between now and when they pass, are you giving this year? And I don't believe that is how charities act, but there is a fear out there. And so a lot of what I do is dealing with misinformation and trying to
Mm.
correct the record so that people get the right information to be able to achieve the goals they want to achieve.
That's an excellent point. You made many great points there. In starting with that, people, because we do that as well, we help to link people up with the charities. And I've decided that part of this series is going to include interviewing charities, because people don't always know what it is that charities do and how they do it.
Great
The other
idea.
point, yeah, thanks. And the other point that you made, Heather, around people wanting to make sure they're going to be okay and not sure how planned giving can fit in. Can I give more now? What impact will that have on my future? And that too is where it's an excellent point that that's your experience as well. And that speaks to what a critical role that financial advisors play in this process. And sadly, too many, and we know this from a report on the philanthropic conversation, even though we're trying to change this, that too many financial advisors, for a variety of reasons, aren't as familiar or comfortable with having this conversation about how to build philanthropy into their practice. So
Mm.
I love the points that you're making. When it comes to the concept of imagine your legacy, what do you see as the positives? You've already touched on that to a certain extent in terms of what a difference it can make. Anything else you want to add to that, to comment on?
Well, sometimes what I see my clients working through is they have this idea, but they don't really have a charity that fits exactly what their idea is. And what I can tell them is that there are a number of foundations out there that do a pooling of resources. So they don't have to have a fixed charity or a very fulsome idea. They can talk about what interests them, what matters to them, and then work with one of the foundations to structure a plan that's going to achieve putting the money that they have left towards the goals that they want to see, whether it is looking after stray animals or making sure that someone from a poor background gets an opportunity to be educated. There's so many creative ideas out there that make donor resources go a long way to achieve the goals they want to achieve.
Excellent. And so it sounds to me that you spend a lot of time, you're involved with charities. Because I know
Yeah.
for me as well, I had to learn more about charities and what they do, and was astounded actually at what impact, the extent of the impact that we can have and making a difference in the lives of others.
I was going to say, and then there's also, once they've decided they want to go that route, then we talk at, well, how do we optimize your estate? So you may still have some family you would like to leave some assets to, but also a charity that you would like to leave some assets to. And so when we work with the financial advisor to get a fulsome idea of what assets they have and how they're going to pass, then we can look at, how can we do this most efficiently to get the best bang for our buck, if you will? So what are the tax savings that can be
Mm.
had? Can we designate certain assets a particular way to minimize the tax effect of dying, which we can't avoid, but we can certainly try to minimize, and then see if there's a greater wealth left in the overall estate to be shared between charities and or family. So there's some very creative tools that we can use working with advisors.
Absolutely. And another excellent point, Heather, in that people's perception is they have to decide between their family or the charity. And as you're saying, you can include the charity. And in many cases, because of the different strategies we can use, because of the tax savings with the money going to the charity, it can help to enhance what gets left to the family. And that's an important conversation to have with people. So you're talking about, you know, incorporating both what I love about what you're saying is, and I was going to say, which is why I love you so much, is because you know, you see the planning aspect, you see the financial planning aspect, you see the tax aspect, and you bring that all together from a legal perspective. And that is a real skill and a very unique combination of approaches that is absolutely essential as part of what we're trying to achieve.
I think it's very helpful for the client to understand it from that perspective, and not in the time of COVID, but usually in one of my, well, in several of my boardrooms, I have a massive wall. The entire wall is a whiteboard. And so we spend a lot of time with our clients carving out, what are your goals? What are your assets? What are you trying to achieve? And then it's got to stay within this little frame. So drawing lines so that the clients see how the assets move, where the tax hit's going to be, what eventually is left over. I love my white wall, and I really miss it in this time of COVID with my clients. So
Yes, and I've certainly been on the receiving end of that. It actually was a sheet of paper because we left things till the last minute for Heather in terms of updating our own wills. So before we left for Namibia, and everything got drawn out because I am a visual person, and I appreciate that you want to take the time to help educate, inform your clients so that they can make the best decisions possible and think through all the different elements of it so that nothing really gets missed.
it's interesting because there is no one plan, right? You often get asked, well, what's the right thing to do? And the right thing to do is whatever feels right for the client at the end of the day. We can help tweak it to make it more efficient, to maximize the value of the estate, but the right is whatever the client's happy with at the end of the day.
Perfect, perfect. So any other final words? That was a great summary, and emphasizing the importance of that it's peace of mind and the client feeling really good, having gone through this process with you around understanding what a difference they can make, what the tax implications would be so that they're happy with the outcome. Anything else you want to add to this conversation, this discussion?
I would add that it's up to the client, once they've made that plan, to stay on top of it. So there are always changes. So whether the client changes their mind with respect to what the planning is, whether there's something that's happened in the client's life that causes them to change the plan, or whether the legislation has changed. So the tax benefits and the tax savings we're able to achieve right now, we've had some of that planning in place for a while. But after this time of COVID, we don't know what the legislative changes might look like. And so I think there is an opportunity to make sure that the plan that a client, if they have one currently in place, is still going to be effective. We've all seen crazy changes in the market and in our lives and what our expectations might be. So anytime there is a significant change in your life, it's always a good time to update and look at your plan again.
Mm-hmm. What stands out for me are the parallels, the similarities between what you do and what we do, because we say the exact same thing. Whenever anything changes in your life,
Yep.
we do our best to stay, you know, on top of things, but then things can happen in people's lives. And it's really important that as their advisors that we're kept informed about that.
Team approach is good.
Yes, yes.
Or it
And
takes a village, right?
absolutely. And we love working with Mann lawyers and working with Heather because we know that that we are aligned in terms of our values and our perspective and our approaches. And so I thank you for that, Heather.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. And that is the conclusion of this conversation for now. We're going to certainly have future conversations together with Heather, our goal would be to have a webinar where people could participate and ask their questions directly, because people have a lot of questions about
Yeah.
updating their wills and powers of attorney. And we also have some other interviews coming up with some really interesting guests. So I thank you again, Heather, for your time
Thank you,
and
Betty Ann.
your insight, which is extremely valuable, and certainly for the fantastic work that you do.
Cheers. Have a good day.
Thank you, you as well.